I've seen things you people wouldn't believe.
So let's talk about Twin Peaks. Not the original series, which I started doing a retrospective on and stopped very abruptly. Let's talk about Twin Peaks: The Return, the limited television event series on Showtime. My original plan when this was announced was to do a Twin Peaks retrospective, looking back at the first 2 seasons, the movie Fire Walk With Me, and then doing an episode by episode review as the show, the limited series, continues. That didn't happen, obviously. Initially, the reason for that was limited to I didn't believe the show could be reviewed episodically. I believed it was, as many shows pretend to be, an 18-hour film. It was edited in such a way where the breaks really were essentially pauses in a larger story. A story and a narrative that was continuously running. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think this film should have been constrained to the original 9 hours that David Lynch was planning, David Lynch and Mark Frost. And I think that Twin Peaks: The Return, while incredible as a film experience, is deeply, deeply flawed. And I think that David Lynch has been allowed to indulge himself and to indulge his worst tendencies as a filmmaker. I think that Twin Peaks: The Return is really a combination of the in-your-face confrontation of Fire Walk With Me, which is a fantastic film, don't get me wrong, but is very difficult to watch, very difficult to sit through, very uncomfortable as a narrative, and a combination between Fire Walk With Me and Inland Empire. The extremist surrealism, the episodic, almost incoherent connections. All right, I'm just going to say it. I don't like Twin Peaks: The Return. I don't like it. And that really hurts me as a fan of Twin Peaks, as a major fan, as someone who was really, really excited for this event series. And I was extremely excited after the first 2 episodes. Those first 2 hours were fantastic. A genuine return from one of the giants of cinema. For my money, the greatest living director America currently has. But now, Twin Peaks has always been difficult to quantify, difficult to put into a box. Pun intended, box at the beginning of the show. It's very difficult to put into a box because it's campy, it's a soap opera, it's a murder mystery, it's a supernatural quasi-thriller. The problem with The Return is that it just wants to be weird for the sake of being weird. Is it coherent? Parts of it, sure. I think it's much more accessible than, for example, Fire Walk With Me. Definitely more accessible than Inland Empire. But I think it's far less fulfilling than either of those films. I think it is the result of a filmmaker who said he would never return to television because he didn't want to have to deal with essentially the politics of it. He didn't want to have to deal with the studio's involvement and interference. Showtime basically gave him carte blanche to do whatever the hell he wanted, which results in part 8, which, if you haven't heard, is essentially 55 minutes of nothing but surrealist imagery. And that's great. That's great. That's a once in a generation, holy shit moment in television. We will never see anything like that episode again. Not for 20 years. What you'll see are attempts to recapture it, but they won't be done as well. They won't be anywhere as ingrained in the larger narrative context as part 8 is with The Return. But sit through part 8. Go on Showtime On Demand and watch part 8 in isolation. You sit there and wonder, what the hell is going on? Why am I watching this? Why does this have to be told this way? I don't think there's a good answer to that. I don't think Lynch has a good answer other than, well, shit, I wanted to do it this way. I'm very disappointed with how Twin Peaks: The Return is playing out. I'm very disappointed that we are through the first 12 hours of a 19-hour film and the lead character still hasn't returned. The only time we got to see Dale Cooper as Dale Cooper was the first couple hours where he was trapped in the Black Lodge. He gets out of the Black Lodge, spoiler alert, he gets out of the Black Lodge, surprise, surprise, and he's a shell of his former self. He's still in there somewhere. We get moments where we see him being that old special agent Dale Cooper, but we don't get the humor. We don't get the awestruck Douglas Firs cherry pie moments that we've come to expect, that we were hoping for. And that's making this show really difficult to take. We get these long takes, and I love long takes in filmmaking. Don't get me wrong, I really love them. But we get long takes and long scenes where literally nothing happens. Where people are talking in this stylized, stilted way with long Pinterest pauses, and there's no clear reason why, other than Lynch wanted to do it this way. I think that repeat viewings will be rewarded. My brother went back and watched the first 6 or 7 episodes not so long ago, and he said that it really did help clarify some things, bring things together, and he felt better going forward in the show than he did watching those episodes the first time. That's great. And maybe my opinion's going to change. Maybe my opinion's going to change by the end of the series. But I have a couple concerns. One is that we are not going to get anything in the way of answers. I don't know that Dale Cooper is ever going to return. I'm hoping that eventually he will. I don't think that we will ever see the characters we fell in love with and the characters that made the show what it was for so many of us. We're never going to see them like they were. We're never going to see that humor the way it was. And I know, it's been 25 years. Things change. Television has changed. The landscape has changed. Culturally, America has changed. I get that. I have no problem with that. I do have a serious problem, though, with indulgence for indulgence sake. I don't think there's a reason for any of the changes that David Lynch has made other than he wanted to make them. And nobody was there who would tell him no. Visually, it has been a tour de force. When it's good, it is absolutely amazing. But it's so frustrating. and not frustrating in a good way. It's not frustrating like watching Inland Empire and you're lost the whole time, but you're excited by it. This is just frustrating in a piss you off kind of way. I'm actually almost ready to give up on Twin Peaks. There has been nothing absent two. There has been nothing outside of two very specific moments in the series that have excited me. One, the box. In the beginning of the series, episodes 1 and 2, the box was a terrific way of announcing that David Lynch was back, of acknowledging how people watch TV, of acknowledging how pedestrian television has become, and a great way of giving a middle finger to everybody who came after Twin Peaks and said, yeah, that was awesome. We're going to do that. We're going to do that our way. We're going to do that for our show. And David Lynch returns and says, no, you're not. You never did. You tried. Some of you had some success commercially and critically, but you didn't do what I did. You weren't good enough. So screw you. This is how you really do it. And I think that was a terrific statement. And I think part 8 was amazing in that you will never see that again. You will never see anything of that caliber again on any kind of television series. It's just not going to happen. When you have 55, 58, 60 minutes, whatever it was, of pure surrealist imagery detailing how the demon entity Bob came into existence, it was a revelation. And I truly do applaud David Lynch for taking that kind of risk. But come on, man. What's the payoff? If you haven't been watching Twin Peaks: The Return, I'm not sure I can recommend that you start now. All I can say is Twin Peaks: The Return is a once-in-a-generation event experience. We're not going to see anything like this for another 20, 30 years on television, on any network. If for no other reason, maybe that's why you should be watching. But unless you are a serious David Lynch freak, I wouldn't bother. And that really is upsetting to say, because I love Twin Peaks. And this is not Twin Peaks. This is something different. And it's different in a not good way. And that's that.
Pomegranate.